Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Snapchat. Today I'm being joined by, guess who? It's Cozy Snap. Cozy, how you doing today, buddy?
What's up, man? Last podcast of the year. Doing great, man. Happy to be here for one last conversation. Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, feeling a lot better. It's good to feel better too, and to have my full energy, my full voice back. So guess what, Cozy? We're gonna be talking Marvel Snap today. I think you knew that. We're gonna be talking about why we love Marvel Snap. We're gonna be talking about is retreating anti-climactic, and finally, we're gonna be talking about the best cards to minimize RNG. Cozy, what are we talking about in your video?
Yeah, so it was a great conversation, guys. We're talking about the hot and rising cards of December, not the leech, not the leaders, but other cards that are going to be just much more hot this month and the months to come. Also, we talked about the best strategies for winning more cubes and losing less. Probably one of the most important conversations we've had on the Snapchat, and we could go on for days about it. In January season pass, we've got a new card coming. Alex looks busted, and we broke that down with a week ahead preview. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited to talk about why we love Marvel Snap and just the other subjects today in general. You've got your Adidas, shirt on, so I know you're ready, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. And for those that are new to the Marvel Snapchat, basically it's a two-part series. You can watch the 3 topics listed underneath Cozy's picture there on his channel. I'll be linking his video in the description, in the comments, and at the end of this video as an end screen as well. So no matter what, you'll be able to find it. Now, Cozy, let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of this conversation. Why we love Marvel Snap. We spend so much time often, not criticizing, but providing constructive criticism with regards to Marvel Snap, what we'd love to see. And it's crazy because, at the end of the day, it's because everyone really cares. We love this game so much, we play this game so much, that we want to see, these incremental quality of life improvements and these general improvements. And it's very easy. And oftentimes, I would say we don't want to forget why we love this game, right, Cozy?
Yeah,
Is it easy to sometimes forget and lose sight of what's actually so important? And it is that this game is truly remarkable. So
yeah,
why not have a conversation, Cozy, where you and I discuss the things we love about Marvel Snap. And in the comments section, I would love for you guys to let us know as well what you love about Marvel Snap. Cozy, hit me.
dude, I'm excited to talk about this because, look, we're both positive people. I think people know that by now from watching the content. I think negativity can sell per se. There's plenty of things that I see out there that definitely, I get it. There are problems and things aren't perfect. But wow, it's 2 months in and the game is great. And I think I don't want to lose, sight and focus on that. It's that healthy balance. And let's balance it out by talking about the things we love. Dude, Marvel Snap, here's the thing. Every day is fun to me. Every day is fun. And if it wasn't, I would move on. Guys, I don't content create for things I don't enjoy doing. And Marvel Snap, the reason I started making content for this game is that I legit was having fun every day because it feels fresh every day. If I was losing with one deck one day, I can switch to another one. It's that fresh feeling of the game where it doesn't feel like I have to invest so much of myself to change, the way that I have fun with it. I like to call it quick games, quick emotions, Alex. By far one of my favorite things about the game.
Yeah, it's amazing that you bring that up because I've talked about it in the past, but for years I was a Dota 2 content creator, and when Marvel Snap was announced, I saw the trailer, and I saw that it was Ben Brode's new game, and I was a huge Hearthstone fan. I'd fallen off Hearthstone, honestly, and I was like, you know what? If Brode's making a new game, man, I'm in, right? I'm gonna sign up for the beta. And I didn't get in on the first wave. I got in on the second wave, and I installed it and I started playing. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think I love this game. Even in early beta, we had bugs where cards were going black. You couldn't even, Colossus was glowing like the sun.
Oh,
It was
God, yeah.
it was one of those things. I was like, I just love the game. And I decided, I was like, I'm not playing Dota anymore. I'm just gonna play Marvel Snap. This is what I like. It doesn't even feel like work. Making content creation is hard work, but when I'm playing Marvel Snap, I'm just enjoying myself. So why would I not cover this amazing game? And I had full confidence in this game. And one of the things that really caught me was that it was just so fun to play. It's incredibly well designed. It's engaging. And at the end of the day, no matter how great graphics are, no matter how great sound design is, which by the way, all these things Marvel Snap does well, it's the gameplay that gets us coming back for more. And Marvel Snap nails it, Cozy.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think, oh, man, it can be exhausting to be negative every day, and and that's just who I am as a person. Like, I think, as a person, I choose to look at the more brighter side of things, and not saying that's how you have to live by any means, without question. But with Marvel Snap in general, like, guys, I made a destroyer deck guide. I spent 17 hours making that deck guide. 17 hours in a day, man. And yes, is that crazy? Probably. But I had fun doing it. I had fun playing it, getting the content, testing the deck, gathering research, and putting it together for edited content, right? I've got a newborn. I've got life outside of this, but I'm still enjoying the hell out of it because it's bringing me to it every day. And that's exactly, you hit the nail there. I want to say I love just the competitiveness too. I think they found that perfect mix, and especially when we get more game modes of an unranked game mode of like, hey, it's fun, but it's also sweaty, and you can find which ones you gravitate to more. But without question, I think one thing I love is, man, have you ever loved a game? Like, for me, it was Overwatch. And I had my friend group, and I'm like, hey, guys, it's an awesome game. All you have to do is, like, master it. And so, like, it was such a... Or Dota, I'm sure, is the same thing. League of Legends. It's like, wow, some games are so hard to pick up. You've got to, like... You could learn another language in this universe before you could learn, like, the basic, traits of every League of Legends character. And there are games that are worth the payoff, and some people love that. But with Marvel Snap, it's the first time that I can call my great friend from college or whatever back in the day and say, hey, bud, this game slaps. Try it out for a couple of days and you'll know why it's good. Like, you don't have to invest so much into it to just see the simple, simplistic fun. It's very beginner friendly. But at the same time, for my other friends that I played football with and things, we're competitive. And to see the competitive side of it, like we just talked about, it's got that blend. It's hard to explain, but it's like chess, right? Kids can play it, but then you've got the elite Queen's Gambit level of play.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, and it's great because like because like the matches are like the 3 to 5 minute range, I find that like tilt isn't really a factor. Like,
No.
you're competitive, you want to win, but if you lose a tight match and you lose by that one energy, like, yeah, it's frustrating in the moment, but like, you haven't invested a 25-minute game of Hearthstone where the guy's roping every single turn and you're like, dude, and then you just throw the game because of RNG at the end. It's just like infuriating. With Marvel Snap, it's 3 minutes. The best cure for your tilt is queuing next.
Yeah, it's hard to
Get to the next one, baby.
It's hard to get tilted in the game. I mean, I get you can. Like, listen, I've had the Subterraneous. You get all 5 rocks, and you're like, do you hate me, God? Right? Like, it's just there's things that happen, but for the most part, it's like, all right, sweat it off, man. Play another match and fold 2 minutes later. It's poker, man. Don't get pissed off at the one hand that you got bad. Win the other 20. And so without question, and I want to say this too. I don't know if they listen, and I don't want to just suck up to the team here, but I've got to say,
You suck up.
I know, yeah, but I got to say, having developers as great as we have right now for this game is such a rare breath of fresh air. I've gotten the pleasure to talk with some of them, and I've got to do like a game show with one of them. I mean, guys, they're all great people, and that's just such an awesome, healthy thing for the game, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think that stems from Ben Brode. It stems from the top down, having that kind of like positivity, leadership, and all that, and having a team that cares about their project and has passion. I've seen games that are great games lost their potential because the passion is gone. And so the dev team is another thing of why I love Snap. I'm going to be honest. I have been with plenty of games where the devs they're not great. And this is an exception.
So funny you say that because like in my experience, like Snap's kind of like the third major game I've covered, so to speak. I started with Dota Underlords, which was a Dota mod base. It was like an auto chess version of Dota. And that game was literally just like silently abandoned by the development team. Like, there was no announcement that like development has ceased. There was no updates, nothing. It just ended, and no one ever said anything. And like, years have gone by without a single update, with no mention from the development team. So like, and then you go to Dota, where the joke in that entire community is that like the Valve janitor does the battle pass updates on their spare time. Like, guys, we have it so good. We have a Discord where there's like Q&As almost constantly occurring. We get like informative tweets. We get Ben Brode actually replying to people on Twitter. Guys, that's not easy. Like, it is so time consuming. Like, we get like Cozy, like we get so many comments all the time. It is so time consuming to actually like respond and like participate in the people
Without
asking
question.
questions. So like, this development team doing that, like, make no mistake, this is them like on their off time, like eating a sandwich, their first sandwich of the day, because they've been grinding on the game, and they're answering your questions, guys. We have it so good, you have
Dude,
no idea. Or maybe you do because you come from other games that like you're getting the silent treatment.
Ben,
We're so blessed here.
Ben Brode always talks about like being in Girl Scout meetings. I assume for his daughter, and I always crack up because I'll see him tweet about that, and then he like answers some questions, and I just see him right like these Girl Scout meetings. They're talking about I don't know their latest cookie sales. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, and then he's like, yeah, a Green Goblin is being looked at. I just think it is. People have lives. They're developers. That's their job. They're people, and oftentimes like creators, our jobs mix into who we are as people, and it's kind of crazy to really never be off of it, right? But without question, and I want to say too, the community, and again, not to kiss y'all's ass either, but I've got to say the community, dude. I would say for the most part, again, there are bad people everywhere, in every job, every world, every place. But I would say without even diving into specifics, the community as a whole, the comments, the people, you guys are awesome. I mean, seriously, it's just a collective group of great players. I don't know if that's attributed to Marvel, Ben Brode, Second Dinner. I don't know, but I am just happy and grateful for the community that we do have. I wanted to take no place in, it's so silly to me to see drama in video games. I don't even know how to process that. My life is way too busy to even care about drama or to really care about other people, and what they're doing. I'm just happy to have like a fun group, a positive group, and just a fair group too of great opinions and good people.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Like that is so important. We are really blessed, right? Because like in Marvel Snap, I think people get it. Like people understand that the game is so much much more multifaceted than just like I got to be rank 1. You know what I mean? There's so much more to it. I have friends, literally, I have a buddy that won't stop texting me like variants he's buying in the shop. It's all he likes to do. He literally will not spend his credits or his boosters until he finds a variant for a card he likes, and then he just goes ham on that variant. And then he sends me texts. Look at this variant. Look at this variant. You don't even have this variant. You make content for the game. I'm like, okay. Right? There's so many ways you can find joy in this game. You can ladder. You can be competitive. You can sweat it out. You can deck design. You can just collect. I remember it stuck out to me. Bro talked about how the collection element was so important in this game. This game is beautiful because there's so many things that make it beautiful and so many ways you can engage with it. And you're right, Cozy. Like, we do have a wonderful community around us.
Yeah, dude. That's the thing. I don't know the splits, people. But, okay, I would imagine there's like a way larger split of casual Marvel Snap players than competitive. But competitive drives the game, right? Competitive does drive the game. And I think it's probably the most important part. But do remember, the majority is probably casual. And so having that fun content is what I look forward to, man. I can't wait to just do like, hey, man, I'm going to use the Avengers and you use the X-Men. Let's have some fun. Like, sweaty decks are great. I like to think of myself as the blend of both. I am as competitive as they come. I am very focused on trying to help people achieve goals. At the same time, man, I want to see if I can get Captain America and Thor and them all together and get a winning deck, So easily, man, one thing that I just love about the game, and it's by far those major points that we just talked about.
Yeah, and another thing I want to bring up that I think is so important, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you're discussing, is like if you think about soccer, for instance, or football, if you're in Europe, like how many people actually play professional soccer compared to how many people play pickup or are in just recreational sports and just love the game and play it. It's so important we recognize that like there are so many different ways that people engage with Marvel Snap. And I think that at the end of the day, like Cozy, I think you do a fantastic job of that in your videos where like you really embrace the fun of the game. And that's something I definitely try to do as well, because at the end of the day, there's no one size fits all approach to content from Marvel Snap because we all engage with it differently. And I hope that we all see this beautiful game for what it is and enjoy it, because there is almost nothing better out there in the world. I mean, one could say it's award winning. One last thing I'll mention, and then I'll send it off to you to close us off, is that talking about community, this was something that was brought to my attention. So we did the creator showcase, you and I together, and that was fantastic. And during one of the conversations with Snapster, who has played a ton of Hearthstone, brought up the fact that one of the reasons why they love Marvel Snap was because it got rid of the coin, which was the first turn advantage of Hearthstone. Because in Marvel Snap, y'all just go at the same time. And I think it's ingenious because it's right. Like, it is an incredibly well-designed game. And that's why I love Marvel Snap. Now, Again, am I going to bring up Dota again? But anyways, Artifact. Artifact, rest in peace. That game learned nothing from the games prior. This game we're playing today, Marvel Snap, has learned so many lessons from the games that came before it. It has basically created a game and created an environment where it is so engaging. People couldn't figure out the kind of like first to go problem, the advantage of going first in a card game. Marvel Snap solved it. It solved it, and it's one of those things that makes the engagement in this game so high. I'm not waiting for another guy to play his turn, Cozy. I'm not getting roped over and over again.
Right. Yeah, you can't
I'm
waste people's
constantly
time.
engaged.
Yep, without question. The engagement is it hit the like it's a TikTok mobile game, it was a TikTok like video game in the sense of like quick, fast, stimulating content. And to close, dude, I just want to say like I want to take this opportunity to say like thank you guys. Like seriously, you know, the amount of time, Alex, I know you're the same, just invested into creating content, pouring our hearts into this and sacrificing time and everything with it. Like guys, I am up constantly late, and it means the world to me that we get the reception we've been having both on the Snapchat and podcast form, here on videos. It truly, for every negative comment, positive just completely washes that away, and makes those times worth it, without question. We're not doing this for any other reason but for the love of the game, and I definitely want to take that time to say thank you. So Alex, let's get to the next subject, man. Let's go. Let's talk about the Love Fest was great, but what about retreating? Let's get to let's shift dramatically here. And is retreating anticlimactic? Kick us off with that.
So the idea of this topic really came to mind when you told me the other day that there was this like kind of thing going around, this saying, one might say, that losing a cube in Marvel Snap, one singular cube via retreat, feels like a victory. But winning one cube when someone retreats feels like a brutal defeat. And you know what, Cozy? I think you're 100% right. And I see this all the time. Like, as a content creator, it obviously frustrates me a little more because I'm like, oh, I got the combo. I am going to clap this guy. And then he just retreats. I'm like, well, I can't use this video now. You know what I mean?
I
It's
feel
like,
that so, yeah.
damn it, I had him. I had him exactly where I wanted him. And yes, retreating was the correct call at the time. Good job, dude. However, you ruined my Marvel Snap video. The real truth here is that retreating, as you start to climb the ladder, I think the ladder feels like it turns into a complete crawl because like no one's willing to give up their cubes. Like there's no risk taking.
Simple solution for this. Simple solution. Because I can tell, go look at any of my videos. I say in every video, oh, I'm not going to snap on this guy because he'll retreat. I want to show you guys how it plays out. When an unranked mode comes out, they need to completely get rid of retreating. It would mess up. I get it. I understand the mechanics. There's no point at that. There's no point to retreat on an unranked mode. But to save you time, I do understand the argument of RNG. And guys, if you comment that, trust me, I understand where you're coming from for just the time factor. But man, it would be great to just see how some of these decks and combos flush out. I would love to see, what happens with when I play, Wong into this combo, or like take away like a big loss I had. Like, man, I risked this for nothing, right? But I risked this. I'm not going to do that again. It's good to see what he would have done when I played this. Or maybe I'm seeing Arrow more often when I try this combo. I think if they were to make unranked one of those modes or an option to not be able to retreat, I don't know. I think that would make it feel a lot better, right? I mean, obviously, it's super important in ranked mode, and it has reason. Unranked mode, I don't see exactly the reason unless they do that health thing, and then, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think getting rid of it in unranked would be probably a cool idea. Obviously, snapping's like core to the game. I mean, it's called Marvel Snap, so you might want to preserve it to some extent. But what I will say is like the other side to it is like I know that like we want to be very protective of our cubes, right? I'm going to tell you something that only I can tell you because as a content creator, I'll be streaming and we got this thing on my stream where you scream for the content or FTC, you just type FTC over and over again. And what that basically means is I'm not allowed to retreat and I have to snap and go. And that's perhaps why I donate so many cubes, as I've discussed prior. But one thing I will tell you is there are some turn sixes that look utterly unwinnable. That everyone's like, LOL for the content, go 8 cubes. We want to watch Alex just like tear up in misery as his 8 cubes are donated away once again. And you know what ends up happening, Cozy?
You win.
We win. We win. We win in the most spectacular, insane fashions. And it surprises me how often this happens, where you feel like, oh, he's gonna hit me with this, this, and this. And then like he drops something completely mediocre because he didn't get the draw and you just win. It's a miraculous
Yeah.
feeling. And so like with the snapping and the retreating the way it is, those moments are much rarer. And I think that people that are strictly playing for the cubes will not experience those moments because they're so defensive and so afraid to lose their cubes. And that's fine if you want to rank, like that's the way you do it. However, you're missing out on those insanely incredible moments, those highs that like you go to bed remembering with a smile on your face, like you just don't experience them. You cut off the experience. It's like watching an amazing movie and just before the climax of the movie, you just turn it off because you're like, I don't want to know. I want to imagine what'll happen instead.
So I think it's like two schools of thought. I think I love the merit of what you're saying of seeing games played out more. I think we talked about bluffing a little bit on my side of the channel. Like just because somebody's snapping, like it doesn't mean they're gonna win. And to try to really like, it's hard to predict, right? But trying to just kind of go through the calculations and the odds, doing quick math, quick odds. On the other side of the coin, I will say if you're like, what are we talking about? Your retreat percentage also should be really high, right? Like if you truly, if it is your goal to climb, like if that is your goal to climb, you should be folding a lot of your hands, right? Like that's the other side of the competitive coin. I think it's what you want out of it, right? It's what you want. I will say that there's a middle ground there. You know, you want to be able to see these games finish out. You want to see your combos finish out and see how you could, you know, get a quick win where you weren't expecting it. I think there are definitely risky moves and then there are like stupid moves, right? So like if it's risky and it looks like it'll pay out, then, you know, maybe go into it. If you're losing one lane, winning one, and lockjaws in the other, and you have a way to trigger all three lockjaws, you know what? Play it. You know, why not? It's like, hey, you might pop up the right way. You're already winning one lane. If you're losing all three lanes and you need some just miracle freaking play to happen, maybe it's not the best. You know, I'm more on the side of recommending people to retreat more, to climb, because I'm getting asked all the time, like, I'm losing, or like this deck sucks. I lose more cubes than I win. It's like, well, that's more of a cube management, right? But I do agree what you're saying. There's two sides to the coin. But you also don't want to get to the end of the movie and everybody dies, right? Or whatever. So I think there's kind of two sides. But I 100% agree. Retreating is one of the most important things in Snap, and I think sometimes there's either too much importance on it or not enough.
And something I'll add is like there's a card that's kind of causing problems with this, right? Like there's a reason why there's so many retreats happening right now. And it's kind of like because of the fear of leader, I think. Leader provides this game state where like if you're behind, it's like what do you like it's over. And I think that's part of the problem. Like if there's so many board states that like leader just beats. Like it's just I think that's where the problem becomes like we keep saying that maybe leader has to be a 5 cost that can only be played on 5. Because it's one of those situations where like I think that if you nerf leader to some extent, I think retreating drops by like 5%.
I've never thought like, hey, this card is getting nerfed. Leader has no shot to survive. At this point,
No,
leader
zero.
has I'm a 0% shot to stay the same. 0%. He will be addressed by the next patch. No question about it. No question. He has to. And so, and again, I'm more on the camp of like, you know, I don't know. It doesn't affect my enjoyment, but I do. Everyone recognizes it's not one person. Everybody recognizes what you're saying. It's just kind of a cheap winner, right? So yes,
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head as far as leader, because it's a turn 6 one. You know, it's a turn 6 cheap play, not a turn 5. And it's why they kind of fixed Magic. Magic was the same issue. They fixed her,
Exactly.
and she feels somewhat safer now, right?
And before we move on to the next topic, one final thing I want to say about retreating is that it really is the highest skill thing in the game. Like snapping and retreating really is the highest skill thing in the game. Like when it comes right down to it,
Yep.
knowing when to retreat, like knowing when to snap, really does make the difference in where you rank. And most importantly, you can do that most effectively by learning the play patterns of the decks that you're facing, which is something we actually talked about in your video,
Yes,
Cosmic
sir.
Cubes. Win more, lose less.
Yes, sir.
Cozy, let's talk about the best cards to minimize RNG, because RNG is one of those things that some people just get so frustrated with. And just like we talked about with the snapping, RNG creates incredibly climatic moments, moments that like really stand out in memory, but it also can be extremely, extremely punishing. So sometimes you want to get the hell away from RNG. And so, Cozy, hit me with a card that you feel minimizes RNG. I've got 5 on my list, so let's rattle through them, Cozy.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's funny. I think people see us as content creators, and yes, we have to edit sometimes, showing more meaningful content. I think at some point I did something. I don't know what it is, but RNGesus, wherever it might be, whoever you might be, I pissed it off. I don't know what I did. Maybe I walked under a ladder. I don't know. I have terrible RNG in this game. I feel you, viewers. My last card pulls in pool 3, Mystique and Wong before the token shop. I have terrible luck with pool 4 and 5, probably the lowest of all creators. Like, I get it, and RNG sucks out of that, but in the game, same boat. I'm a subterranean king, man. I own those rocks. They're my friends. They're my best friends that I have all the time. They magnet to me. I'm the Magneto of rocks, dude. But let's talk about the cards that are less risky. Now, I want to open up a conversation about combos. Let's get to that. But for just one card, to start us, kick us off, I think it's the easiest one to just be like, hey, let's talk about her. America Chavez. Legit the card that says, hey, do you want 9 power? Do you want a better chance to pull your cards? Do you not want to hope for the card pull at hand? Put her in your deck, man. America Chavez, I think, is one of the leaders of just a safe minimized card. We have her down on the bottom. You guys knew this was coming.
Yeah, this is like a card that I include in almost like every deck. Like if I want a deck that has some sort of combo in it, the fact you're playing with 11 cards in your deck because of Chavez is so fantastic. We also talk about snapping and retreating. If you have some sort of combo that has to exist, you don't have to wait till turn 6 to see if you pull your Hela, right? Like you just know if you got a retreat or not on turn 5. And so Chavez does so many good things for an advanced player, but also so many great things for a novice player or someone who's picking up the game for the first time. It's a very easy to understand skill. It's a very powerful card. It's a very consistent card, and it's one that like I include pretty much anywhere I can.
Yeah, so Chavez is definitely near the top of my list, Alex. I also think, and it can be meta dependent. We see Cosmo everywhere right now, right? Like Cosmo's all over the place. The top of my list, and it's just the subject itself, but I want to talk about, obviously, we've got to bring him up. Devil Dinosaur. So this is a card you can control. And listen, okay, Enchantress Rogue, sure, there has to be counters in place for every card, and especially powerful ones. But Devil Dinosaur is legit the card that you have complete control over the power. You have a way to minimize your play. Your deck is built for it. You're going to be getting cards back unless you just get royally screwed in every way. Yes, you have to hope for the pull, but it's a 5 cost, so America Chavez pushes it down. Your rates to pull this card are astronomical and well over the, 80% range for the most part. Now, by turn 5, it depends. But guys, without question, this is probably my favorite card and deck. Like, if you're looking for just, I'm having bad luck, I need myself more of a game winner, this is the one. And then you could throw in some RNG elements. Moon Girl, maybe you double them up. You know, a couple things that hopefully you could pull the combo. But if you want the safe play, this is my guy.
Yeah, Devil Dinosaur is incredible. Like, I never get sick of playing Devil Dinosaur Zola. And the nice thing is if they throw Cosmo on your Devil Dinosaur lane, like you usually have an answer anyway, because
For sure.
maybe you got Nick Fury, maybe you got another 6 in your hand. Like who knows? You've always got another answer. You got more value. You're playing White Queen. There's a lane with a 4/6 in there. You could probably win that lane, right? So like I love Devil Dino, and you're right. It really does minimize RNG. Now, with that being said, like it's constant RNG because you're constantly adding random cards to your hand.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's so much RNG that something's got to be good, right?
Yeah, I mean, the RNG of getting cards to your hand and the power of Devil is taken out. But yeah, the cards you get are crazy. But you could also have that as an argument for you, I guess, in some ways, because you have different ways to pull tech cards and other things to help you with the other RNG on the board. You know, maybe a Carnage for Central Park or whatever it might be. But Alex, with this too, what is Devil Dinosaur, right? He's an ongoing card. I think... and this isn't just like a fact by any means, but it feels like ongoing right now is just less RNG dependent than on reveal. On reveal kind of combos off each other a bit more, in my opinion, right? Like you have Wolf's Bane and whatever. You have different things that kind of combo off each other. Ironheart, you want to pull her in the right times. I feel like outside of just the Mystique follow-ups, like just a lot of these cards just feel a bit better to get out for more dependable plays, in my humble opinion. You know, like Mojo, Ant-Man, you can build up, like you can fill up that lane for the most part outside of Storm and some control options. It feels just a bit more dependable than on reveal, because on reveal is a combo major deck, whereas ongoing is a bit less of the fact.
Yeah, most certainly. And I mean, I always love ongoing lists, but I mean, like Devil Dinosaur just continuously just puts out tremendous power. And yeah, if you get like Enchantress to Rogue, like yeah, you just lose. Like, oh well. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know about you. I'm not seeing a lot of Enchantress right now.
Dude, I
I
almost
sure as
never
heck
see
don't
it.
see a lot of Rogue.
Almost never. And not almost never, but like seriously, I play a lot of Snap guys way too much. And I see Cosmo 50% plus, right? 50%
Yeah,
plus.
Cosmos more often.
Way more, way more. Rogue is a bit more popular nowadays, a bit more
I mean,
because
Shang-Chi too.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi's in there.
yeah, for sure. But for like just Cosmo is, if I feel like at that 3 power is such a heavier counter than Enchantress at 4, because then you're kind of giving up some of your plays to stop your opponent. So that, there's going to be like super scrolls and other things out there that can start kind of taking advantage of ongoing. But I do think that it's a bit of a safer play. Alex, do you have another card in itself that's just a minimizer of RNG?
Buddy, I've got 5.
Hit
We'll
me.
start with Captain Marvel. I mean, Captain Marvel, absolutely love because I think it's the ultimate correction of RNG. Like, it is one of those cards that, like, if it's discarded and you're playing it in a hella list, it just ends up right in the spot you need it. If you misplay because you're terrible at the game like I am, then it just goes back to where you need to win. Like, it's just the ultimate card that just like solves so many problems. Yes, I love playing it with Okoye, so it can be a 5/7, like like your boy Vision, maybe. And but this is a vision that I don't even have to think about. It just thinks for me, and I really appreciate that. I think Captain Marvel is a great anti-RNG card.
There's a few cards that feel perfect, and I think Captain's one of them. Captain Marvel, I don't know will ever be buffed or nerfed. I think that the 5/6 just absolutely hit the precise value and power, because anything more would be a little bit too much. You kind of have to invest in her to get that up there a little bit, and anything less would be underwhelming. I think the 5/6, I love it. Captain Marvel is the card that I always want to fit more into my decks. Like, it's just that token, why I like ramp decks. You can play her earlier. But yeah, talk about like, hey, you don't have to, it takes the guesswork out of what you're doing. And I think that's a great point. There's cards that help RNG, the cards that, make it worse. Great example of that, Alex, is something like Invisible Woman, Hella decks.
Oh, that's number 5 on my list.
Ooh, is an RNG
Good
helper?
call, buddy.
Is that an RNG
Yeah.
helper? Ooh, I like this because it's both. It's both in a sense, right? Because a lot of the decks you play, her main decks are RNG dependent. But I like what you're saying and your point of it. Let's go there. Let's talk about it. So talk about Invisible Woman.
Okay, it's funny. We just skipped a whole bunch of them, but
That's fine.
on my list we have Invisible Woman. Cozy, like you're like a mind reader. Like a mind reader.
This is awesome.
Jean Grey over there. But anyways, I just read about Jean Grey, so I'm sorry.
I know.
Anyways, so the Invisible Woman's great because like it provides you with so much additional control to minimize the RNG. Like, why do you use Invisible Woman in a discard list? So you don't discard Hella. Like, it's the control. It controls the RNG because when you play Blade and it discards your Hella on turn 1, you cry and you make a short about it like I did, and then everyone laughs at you. But if you use Invisible Woman, that just never happens because you play your Hell count on the Invisible Woman, and Hella is just safe and cozy in your hand.
Yeah, I like it, and that's the main point for it, right? That's the best example to minimize it. And then if you look at like, I don't know, the RNG. By the way, RNG, random number generator, but it's also often just like used in terms of just the probability of something happening, right? So Cosmo, the probability of Cosmo being in your opponent's deck. Cosmo on Invisible Woman might be the biggest card that's like, hey, hit me with a Cosmo, because you know that there's more often than not. I've been doing some ongoing under her because I'm like, they always Cosmo, man. They always Cosmo it. But it's kind of both ways with her. But I do agree, hiding what you're trying to do minimizes the RNG of your opponent countering that, especially if you think ahead and try to imagine what they're going to play. But yes, Invisible Woman, we didn't talk about her. Hot rising card, I think, finally is getting just more noticed outside of those Hella decks and playing Ebony Maw. Century, these other cards that can have negative effects that get a lot better later in the game. Give me another one. You got 5. Hit me with more.
All right, number 2 on my list was Professor X. Professor X because it completely locks down the location outside of like buffing. Like
I was gonna say, he's the ultimate YOLO play.
Yeah,
but
Professor X, if you don't want RNG, Professor X just says no. Like, this lane is this lane. This location remains. So like Professor X, if you hate RNG, like Hella can't access it.
I would say Professor X is the definition of the ultimate RNG on turn 5. Like, hey, YOLO gods, don't play into my lane. But 100% as far as like locking that lane down. And with him is a card I had on my list. Daredevil is just that card for that RNG remover, right? If you don't want to be scared of what your opponent's going to play, you want to make sure that you're doing the right things on the most important turns of the game, which is turn 5. Daredevil into that will minimize that even more, and he's the perfect, obviously, complement to reduce the RNG of Professor X and to see what your opponent's going to play. The RNG of Arrow moving you, yeah.
I can't believe it, because I was literally just going to say, Cozy, are you telling me that before you play Professor X, you haven't played Daredevil, and then when they revealed the card, you didn't snap and then play Professor X? Like, what are we even doing now? But I know the truth now. You want to show off this variant, which means it's now your turn to describe to our audience in your deep, silky voice what this variant looks like.
Yeah, I'm looking out for the pool 1s, without pool 2 players, without Daredevil. All right, the Professor X play. But yeah, I would say the variant we're looking at here is, when you were just a wee child under your bed and you imagine the absolute horror underneath that could crawl out, hand grabbing your ankles. You don't have any basis off it. You just always imagined it. Imagine that, but a street fighting hero in Daredevil, who's been possessed by the demon of RNGesus, that is the subterranean RNGesus. He is just a devil. He is the Daredevil. He's a devil-looking card, and it is frightening and amazing at the same time. But did I do good, Alex? Was that okay?
I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. So
Okay.
yes, you did a good job. He literally looks like he's holding bone clubs. Like, what are those?
Yeah, dude. And his tongue, like,
Yeah, it's like a lizard tongue.
yeah, pass, man.
He looks like lizard, like a psychotic lizard.
That's a pass for me. Don't want to see that thing on the street. All right, Alex, for another card that I have, though, that I wanted to talk about RNG-wise, and we talked about, like, combos and things like that. It's not exactly just one card. Like Angela Bishop, I could go on for them for a while. I think they're just like safe cards to play, and you know what you're doing, and you know the exact setup, and there's not a ton that can happen with them. Combos in the ways you play cards in decks. Discard is probably the best example, right? With discard decks, you can go with the Lockjaw. You can go with, the other ones out there that are just like hella, right? Just like, hey, let's see what we get. Blade, have me at your mercy. But then there's ways to prevent it, right? You could play Gambit, but then you could play Calling Wing, and you can calculate exactly who she's going to discard. You could play Lady Sif. You can calculate who she's going to discard. There's just better ways to go about it. And obviously, like Hellcow, high risk, high reward is why the deck is so fun to play, in my opinion. But looking in your archetype and being like, all right, these cards are more RNG favored with bigger results, and these are less sexy results, but more consistency.
You're right. Like having that added consistency is like really what makes these cards shine, right? And I think you're right with like Bishop. Like you can just calculate Bishop's worth. Like you can understand what Bishop's gonna do for you. You can understand what Angela's gonna do for you, and that's what makes these cards so good. And Colleen Wing, you're right, is like it's pure control. Like hitting that Ebony Maw or hitting that swarm is like super valuable. 100%, buddy. And it actually works perfectly with the next card that I wanted to bring up. And this is a card, I got 2 more cards. This is the second last one. And I want to hit you with this one, and I didn't give it to you prior because I want you to actually give me your first initial thoughts, because this is a hot take. It's Domino.
Ooh.
Cozy.
Talk
Domino.
about a card we don't
Think
talk
about
about.
Domino for a second as an anti-RNG card. What is the first thing that pops in your head? And you can't say anything overly negative.
About Domino?
Yeah. There's Domino's like, I think in terms of Marvel Snap, this has got to be the card that has like the widest opinion. People are either like M'Baku level, Domino is absolute filth. And on the other side, people are like, it's a good card, but not like insane. Like, that's right. It's a little like no one's really crazy about Domino, but like there's people that absolutely hate the card, like Quicksilver hate the card. And then there's people that think it's good.
Well,
Where do you fall, Cozy?
first off, thank you for letting me show the variant. Like, this is one of my favorite that I don't ever get to see, because Domino is one of my a card that I think is so fun that I never play. Right? I don't play her personally. What is my opinion on her? I actually think she's pretty good. I think she's great in select decks. Fun Marvel fact: she's like a very lucky character, right? Like I think she's like one of the luckiest, and so that's kind of why she's always going to be on turn 2, and that's the lore behind it. Domino works in decks like Silver Surfer. We kind of saw the rise of Domino because of that. Some people just don't want to mess around with turn 2, and they just want something to put out there. I like it as obviously the RNG getting a 2/3 and guaranteeing you a 2 play. There's 2 schools of camps. I think really it's more about having the right combos later on in the turns. I think turns 1 through 3, there's a camp of they just don't matter. You can win on turn 4, 5, and 6 reliably, right? But there's also games where you want to make sure you get a little bit of an early presence. You don't care about, the later results. Your number one move is initiative. So if you go for initiative and being sure you can play, Domino is, if your deck's initiative heavy, Domino. If not, and it's more power heavy, you don't have to have her, is my thought.
You know what's so funny about what you just said, and I don't want to like completely go off the rails here, but like you just said that like that you can win the game on turn 4, 5, 6. And I think that mentality is exactly why leader is so prevalent right now. Because what leader does, the talk about positively about leader, what leader really does is make turns 1 through 5 matter. Because like with Domino, that's 3 power. And that is essentially additional like initiative. Like having the turn 1, the turn 2, the turn 3, 4, like having that consistent power curve makes a leader player be like, I don't have board advantage.
Without
You know what I
question,
mean?
I think that is. I talked about it on a video before. Why leader's important? Why these cards that are the most infuriating are important? Because if they weren't, all you would see is Death Wave. If leader didn't exist, if we didn't have Cosmo, on reveal would be the best, obviously by a mile. So these have to happen, and you are correct, and that's why the balancing is going to be important with leader, because you want these first turns to matter, right? Like you don't want it to be like if it wasn't, then it just would be such a different game, and so. Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And Domino, and maybe we see that evolve more as the meta kind of molds and grows from the developers and the player base.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one, like, obviously the downside of Domino is that it's a 2 cost that does not have like an effect, kind of like what like Scorpion does, for instance. And it denies a draw. So like it comes in, it's a guaranteed draw, but it prevents you from drawing perhaps a combo piece like that Electro that you don't have in your hand on turn 1. Well, you ain't getting it, right? You're not getting it on turn 2 either. So you have to like really hope that you get it on turn 3. But yeah, Domino I think was really interesting. It is kind of an anti-RNG card. I mean, and the final card we'll talk about. And listen, I love this card. And please, I'll give you a hint. He's in a hot tub.
Oh man,
is that enough for you?
So good.
Is that enough for you?
Say no more, buddy.
Sunspot.
Say no more about the Bachelor.
Yeah, look at this guy just chilling. Okay, so yeah, we got our hot tub and little yellow ducky Sunspot here. And I think this is a great anti-RNG card. And you might be thinking, Alex, like, what are you even talking about? Like, this is a reach. No, it's not. Anytime you don't curve properly, this Sunspot here chilling, just like, yeah, don't worry, guys. I got you. I got that energy. It's not wasted. Don't worry. I got you.
Yes.
Isn't that great? You got bad RNG, bad draws. You didn't draw a turn 3 play or whatever. He's like, I got you, son. Don't worry.
Right, and that's why I love Sunspot. Like it's a bit of a misconception of people like, oh, it's a 1 drop that could be a 12. It's like, you're using the energy to make them stronger, but you're using that energy to not have to worry about it. Or like, if you are in dude, I can't tell you how many pickles you've been in where it's like you're losing a little bit on that lane, but you need to play a card on this lane. Oh, I could just play a 3 drop here, have my other 3 drop, go ahead and win on that lane too. So like, there's just multiple things that he does for RNG. Hand and card draws, but also just like spreading yourself out across multiple lanes. Sunspot, man, is always going to be meta in some form or fashion. It doesn't matter Killmonger in his status because of that dependability, especially like in ramp decks, man, like all that Electro energy, like, push it on over. I agree. This might be up there on the list of like bad card draw RNG.
I'm laughing to myself because I'm such an idiot. While you were talking, I was imagining to myself momentarily. I had this like momentary daydream, like
You in the hot
I
tub?
wonder if I played Sunspot on turn 1 and then just didn't play anything until turn 6 and then just Taskmastered. Is that enough energy to win? That was what my head was doing at that time.
You just broke the game right there. You just the new meta deck coming out, the Sunspot Taskmaster. I thought you were imagining you in the hot tub with Sunspot there. Which I wouldn't.
No, I couldn't be so lucky, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, no way.
That's not even a hot tub. That looks like he's on some sort of like hot spring oasis in like in the Arctic or something.
Yeah, dude, there's like a cabin behind him. I want to know what the hell's going on. But yeah, dude, Sunspot definitely up there on the list, man. And there's so many cards, and I love the discussion. We'll bring these back up in the future. But talking about value, we've talked about our favorites. We've talked about what we think are the best plays early, and now minimizing RNG cards. Alex, just always great discussions here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And guess what, guys? We want to close this session by wishing you guys an absolutely wonderful new year and a remainder of your holiday season. Please enjoy Marvel Snap, but most importantly, enjoy your time with your families because time certainly does fly. Cozy, thank you so much for joining me this week. And linked right in the middle here is another video. Guess what? It's Cozy's side of the 3 discussion pieces listed under his name. Definitely click that link and definitely go check out Cozy. Thank you guys for joining us. And Cozy, once again, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. We guys see you next week.